Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it's time to play some Grey Knights. Welcome back, all my 40k fanatics out there. I'm DJ here with Tim's Nation, and although my intro video might suggest otherwise, no, I am not trying to cosplay as a Nemesis Dreadknight. Someone here was a little grumpy, so she wanted to come hang out in the video. First it was Sophia, and then after trying to record and Sophia getting very, very angry, then she got hungry, and now Leia's up, and she's like, hey, where's my turn? So Leia's hanging out with me. But no, not trying to cosplay as a Dreadknight, although it would be very fitting since we are playing the new Warp-Bane Grey Knights Detachment tonight against Lane, and here's the list preview. Someone at Games Workshop must watch my videos and love me, because they know how much I love the Canoptic Court, and they know I love my Grey Knights too, and they put them together to today give us the first in an army that I will call the Grey Court. And this is the list we're bringing today. So first, the detachment rule, which I want to throw out there real quick before we jump into the army itself. The Grey Knights detachment of the Warp-Bane is hallowed ground. This means that anything in my deployment zone, wholly within, anything if I control at least half the objective markers at the beginning of any phase in no man's land, or control the objective marker in my opponent's zone, that makes those zones a hallowed ground. And what this means is that our new ability of reroll ones to hit is upgraded to a full reroll to hit. Now, there's one other caveat to this that the Canoptic Court doesn't do, and that is that Purifiers are a beacon of hallowed ground. Any unit wholly within 6 inches of them is counted as in hallowed ground, which means that the Purifiers are also a hallowed ground unit. So it's going to be interesting to see what stuff we can do with them. Right, little A? Yeah, so it's going to be very interesting, and that's kind of where I'm going with this list. I do feel like we are in a realm where, once again, Dreadknights are king. As I mentioned, I thought that, nope, the detachment was going to go great Dreadknight heavy. This is not quite Dreadknight heavy. It's not like they went, oh, buff all the Dreadknights, but this definitely gives a big boost to Dreadknights being able to reroll hits. So, before someone gets angry, since we made it through the intro, let's jump over to the army video and see what we're bringing here today. All right, here it is, our Grey Knights Warp-Bane detachment. Now, we have one, and this is going to be posted, the list is going to be posted down below, minus 25 points because of just the fact that we don't have the ability to put the full detachment in the video. So with this army, as I mentioned, we still do have the ability to go up, down with all of our, Space Marines as we always have, except in this detachment now, we won't have the auto advance 6. We also lose a couple of other things that we'll talk about at the end of this video, but for the most part, this is going to be a very, very intense and interesting upgrade for this entire force, for this army, and yeah, let's get started. So first and foremost, we have 3 Dreadknights. As I mentioned, having units of whatchamacallit, the Dreadknights, and having the full rerolls to hit, I think is going to be a big, big blessing for this army. This means these psycannons are going to hit extra hard. Now, I did consider going into incinerators on these, but we're still going to go with the silencers for the full rerolls to hit, especially because of the sustained boost. So I like that a lot. We're going to be able to get more hits, even though they're not as strong as maybe the psycannon would, or the incinerator would be. The psycannon is going to be the big bane. All of these guys do come with hammers. So yeah, advance and charge option is still there. So these guys are still going to be mega tough. Not a lot of stratagem support out of this detachment for these guys, but I think they're just their data sheet alone is a strong stat check for a lot of armies. Next up, we have a Grand Master Nemesis Dreadknight. with the data slates, these guys cost the same as Dreadknights. The reason I took one is because you can only take 3 Dreadknights. So I took one because I do like the fact that they get full rerolls to hit, wound, and damage in combat going into monster and vehicles. Now we are talking about the fact that obviously we get the full rerolls to hit if we're in a sanctified zone, our hallowed zone, but this gives us that outside of it. It gives us it in combat, and it gives us a very, very strong punch going into combat units. So I like this a lot with him. Now, one thing is, again, we don't have the enhancements like the sigil that I like to run in other lists, so he's not going to be as quite as flexible to be able to stand up in the front and do early secondaries, and then it's like, oh, I get shot at and bounce away. But we're looking to go a little heavier on the damage side of things with this list. And something else that's interesting that we bring in today is going to be a Calidus Assassin. Calidus does well in this army because she is a unit that can up down, much like the rest of my army can. On top of it, the reason I chose to take her today is because with some of my units that are 2 wound marine units, so we'll talk about in a second, they can hit really hard. I don't want them getting overwatched or having any other strats be used on them when I don't want them to hit. So I'm like her to be able to put her down, vect an area, and then hit with other units. So that's a big part of her thing. And then secondly, just playing on secondaries because a lot of my stuff is very aggressive. So picking her up and being able to let her do secondaries is going to be a big part. Now, continuing on about secondaries, we do have a kind of newcomer, I think I've only run him a little bit, is a 5-man squad of Purgation Marines. Purgation squad is the ones that can shoot indirectly if another unit can see them. I was back and forth with this position in these last amount of points. I thought about putting in another squad of strike, but I wanted a unit that was probably going to stay on the board more than just getting up, going around, bouncing around, and doing the on-off light switch game. So this unit's going to be able to kind of hold one of those other objective markers that I'm going to need to hold to be able to make the center no man's land into hollow ground. So to do that, this unit fits that role very, very nicely. I can put these guys down on an objective, out of line of sight, and they can still shoot. Now, typically with the artillery rules, be only hitting on 4s, we do get full rerolls to hit, which is a good thing. Their AP1 is kind of lost because I'm going to be giving cover to my opponent. So it's kind of rough, but hey, they are 2 damage, and it's more shots than the strike would be getting from behind a wall since the strike can't shoot from behind a wall. So these guys have an interesting role within this army to kind of hold those objectives. So we're going to see how that works out. Now, what the strike are going to be doing this game is we're going to be taking a big old 10-man of them today. We're taking a 10-man led by our Brotherhood Champion. And the Brotherhood Champion is going to have the enhancement, something the Abyss, that gives them stealth. So the Brotherhood Champion can only join, the Purifiers can only be joined by Crowe. So I'd wanted to use a couple of the enhancements, and I did want a combat unit. So here we go. Today we are going to bring a 10-man with all combat weapons. This is going to be a unit that I'm going to be utilizing the 1 CP stratagem, which although we've seen a change that all 3-inch deep strike stratagems are now 6-inch deep strike stratagems, this one does not have a caveat that you cannot charge after. So this is a unit that can deep strike in and charge on a 6-inch, with being in 6 inches, so a 5-inch charge, led with a Brotherhood Champion that gives them fight first, and then they'll have stealth when they get shot at later on. So this is going to be an interesting unit. A lot of attacks, a lot of AP, good damage. We'll see how it rolls out. And next up is kind of the grand finale. We have Castellan Crowe and 2 10-man squads of Purifiers. Now, I say 2 10-mans because you can go between either of them. They're both the exact same. Swords and 4 special weapons. The 4 special weapons that they have, one is going to have 4 incinerators. The other is going to have 4 of the psycannons. Typically, and this will probably be the case in this game, the Castellan Crowe will be going with the incinerators because I want that anti-infantry just devastation that he can bring. We'll see. There might be some say in the future where it's like, oh, let's put him with the psycannons. The psycannon squad is probably going to be one that's going to be trying to keep that sanctified zone and build that up. We have a strat that gives us 4-up invuln, which can go well with either one of them. And the plus and the reroll wounds is going to be insane for the flamers and the anti-infantry, especially when led by Crowe. So there's some play here. Only one squad can be led by anybody, because Crowe is the only one who can lead Purifiers. All right, I think that's everybody. So that is the list. All right, so both girls got into this video. They couldn't make it the whole way. So, talking about this army, I'm very excited to try this out. This is very interesting, very unique. Some things that we lost. We lost the True Silver Armor, and we lost Mr. Deimos, because Detachment. Yes, there's other strats that we lost as well, but those are probably the ones that people look at the most. For me, I feel like I never had command points for True Silver Armor. I was always doing other stuff, Rapid Ingress, Overwatch, and Mist of Deimos, or keeping a CP up there to threaten with Mist of Deimos. Now, Mist of Deimos is probably the one that's most missable, I'll say. True Silver, not so much, especially because now we've seen the nerf to that style of ability. So, not as concerned about that. Especially because of how much damage output boost we got. So yes, we can't run away as easily, but we have the damage output boost. On top of it, we did get some cool strats. Now, if the opponent moves close, we have a strat that if they move close and we're in that sanctified zone, we can do mortal wounds to them. And we have a strat that if they try and charge us and we're in that zone, we can target that unit, give it -1 to charge, and then if we're in the zone, it's -2. So those are some cool abilities that I like that are also unique. I think that's just since it's so stretched out till now, and Grey Knights have actually had a lot of play, I think that Mist of Deimos is a big part of people's minds of just Grey Knights in general and how they play. So it's a tough one to think. It's like, oh wow, that's something I can't do that now. But eventually we're going to get a Codex, and Mist of Deimos might be gone entirely. So this is definitely, you know, just given that feel of those things being gone, and I still think there's a lot of fancy tricks with it. I think this is super powerful, especially considering we're talking about Dreadknights being able to go full re-rolls to hit and not be necessarily tethered by a unit. Yes, the Purifiers give off that aura, but if we can just tag 2 objective markers in the middle, now the whole zone is, and it doesn't matter. And since you could do it in the beginning, you do it when you deep strike or when you bring in your reinforcements, then at the beginning of the shooting phase, bam, the ability turns on. So it's I think it's very strong. I'll do a full review, obviously, like I said, after playing this army, because I want to actually talk about it from that perspective of, okay, I played this, now here's how I feel. As far as like the enhancements go, Sigil, huge thing. That one's one that's going to feel. That's a that's not only an enhancement that we've had this entire edition, that's an enhancement we've had for like 2 editions. So it's something that a lot of Grey Knight players have had in their mind, and not having it there is definitely going to be noticed, and you're definitely going to feel that. I already feel it with the fact of how my Grandmaster Dreadknight's going to play, and the fact that he's not going to have that. So that's a big one. First of the Fray is one that I've been utilizing a lot, so that when I go first, I have a first turn play. So that's going to put me back to kind of back behind the 8 ball in that aspect of feeling, okay, how do I play this army when I go first? Because we are limited in range for a lot of the units. So some things to watch out for, but I mean, for how hard this army can hit when it hits, it's really, really going to be tough. One of the only things that actually concerns me and I fear is, you know, an army that can deep strike on turn 1, still, even without it, you know, maybe some drop pods, maybe some Stern Guard, something like, I don't know, Devwatch. Well, good thing Devwatch isn't around anymore. Oh, wait, Balanced Data Slate. I wonder if we'll be seeing the Devwatch anytime soon. Epic foreshadowing. So that's it for right now. I can't really say much more until after I play the army. I got a huge combat threat with the Strike Marines. I think they're going to be one thing that is going to be a bigger surprise when they hit. just because of how they work than most expect, especially if I'm able to, if I already have that hallowed ground and I don't need to do it with like the purifiers, but then if I just go and go, okay, I'll deep strike the purifiers land. Well, the purifiers automatically make that within 6 inches, so I can just piggyback them down there. And until someone shows me somewhere that they are not allowed to charge, after that, then that's how I'm going to play it. I will be putting this video up. Hopefully, we'll see that. But actually, I don't think it's going to be tough to see if I'll see the message before the game because of getting this video edited up in time. But yeah, I mean, I feel like Lane and I have discussed it. I've discussed it with a couple of people. It seems like that is legally okay, as there's other armies that are able to do similar effects. Yeah, so that's what I got. All right, guys. Well, as always, thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.